Megan Meyer was a typical 14-year-old girl. She was into social networking, hated her braces, and was about to switch schools. Megan had attended Zumwalt Middle School, but her mother and father had decided that a new school might be a better fit for their daughter. They enrolled her into Immaculate Conception Catholic School, where they thought she'd have an easier time fitting in. After school, Megan spent time on the internet and met a 16-year-old boy named Josh Evans on the social networking site MySpace. They sparked up a friendship and started to become quite serious.
Josh befriended Megan and was like, oh, you're really cool. And then Megan was like, oh my God, I think I'm in love. And then Josh turned on her and was like, everybody hates you, you suck, you should die.
Then suddenly, the tone of the messages from Josh changed drastically. On October 15th, 2006, Josh sent a message saying that he no longer wanted to be friends with Megan. His reasoning was because he heard stories that she wasn't very nice to her friends from her previous school. The messages after that got steadily more cruel and hurtful. The final message sent by Josh was one that reiterated that people knew how mean she was to her friends, and that everyone in Josh's town knew of her, and that every young person hated her, and thought that she would be better off dead. She had responded to Josh's final message with the idea that Josh was indeed the kind of boy a girl would kill themselves over.
I went upstairs and opened the door and saw her hanging in a closet and screamed and ran over and tried picking her up.
This may seem like a tragic story of a girl who was deeply saddened by an online breakup. Perhaps Josh, being immature at 16, didn't understand the power of his actions on the internet. But there's only one problem. Josh wasn't 16, and he wasn't even real. Megan's parents discovered that the mother of one of Megan's former friends, a girl that Megan had a falling out with, had created a fake MySpace account as Josh Evans. The mother was Lori Drew, and she had shared this account with her daughter and her daughter's friends, all taking turns sending fake messages that eventually turned hostile and under the guise of a 16-year-old boy. Lori had an employee of hers, 18-year-old Ashley Grills, write the majority of the messages to Megan. Lori saw it as a joke, a funny way to get back at Megan on her daughter's behalf. She claimed that she had only wanted to find out what Megan had been saying about her daughter, but many have reported that Lori enjoyed the harassment and that she wanted to mess with Megan.
I believe it was in 2003, was the suicide of Ryan Patrick Halligan, who took his own life at the age of 13.
Ryan Halligan was a 13-year-old middle school student from Vermont. He suffered developmental problems as a child, but most of those problems had passed by the time he had entered adolescence. Ryan had struggled in school up until puberty, which had led bullies to target his mental and physical handicaps. It appeared that things were turning around for Ryan because he had befriended one of the former bullies. Ryan felt comfortable enough to tell this individual about an embarrassing doctor's visit he had because of stomach pains.
Basically, my understanding is that Ryan was bullied because of some allegations about his sexual orientation. There was a specific incident where he had a physical examination, a rectal exam, and then talked with somebody who he considered was his friend about it after that, because it was an unusual experience and one that he had not expected to encounter at the doctor's office.
During the summer break from school in 2003, many students repeatedly tormented Ryan via AOL Instant Messenger on his computer. In particular, a girl named Ashley pretended to be interested in Ryan because she knew he had a crush on her. She continued the charade long enough to blatantly turn on Ryan, telling him to his face that she was only pretending to like him so that she could get information out of him. The private internet message conversations were copied and pasted to other classmates and then were used to humiliate Ryan. When Ryan approached Ashley in school, she called him a loser. Ryan responded with, "It's girls like you that make me want to kill myself." On October 7, 2003, Ryan hung himself in his family bathroom.
So in Ryan's case, what happened was that his parents only learned about the extent of his victimization and the nature of his victimization after he died.
On September 22, 2010, 18-year-old Tyler Clemente committed suicide jumping off the George Washington Bridge. He chose to take his life after being outed by his roommate Doreen Ravi via a webcam in his dorm room. Ravi streamed the internet video of Clemente kissing another man without Clemente's knowledge.
So Tyler Clemente, a Rutgers student, comes to college. Nobody knows that he's gay, right? So he's not out.
Tyler was born and raised in New Jersey. He was a talented violinist participating in the Ridgewood Symphony Orchestra and was the concertmaster for the Bergen Youth Orchestra. Before heading to college, Clemente came out to his parents. His father took it well. His mother was not as supportive. Basically, in his words, rejected him. Once at Rutgers, things did not get easier for Tyler. There were tensions between Tyler and his roommate Doreen Ravi. As soon as Ravi found out Tyler's name, he used his computer skills to deduce that Tyler was a homosexual. Chatting with a friend online, Ravi said about his new roommate, "Most gay person I've ever seen."
He's in his room and he has a guy over, and it's videotaped by his roommate and somebody else.
On the night of September 19th, roommate Doreen Ravi and his friend Molly Way streamed the video, then Ravi tweeted, "Roommate asked for the room till midnight. I went into Molly's room and turned on my webcam. I saw him making out with a dude. Yay." A message that appears to be from Clemente was sent out on a gay community message board 2 days later. He saw me making out with a guy and later added, "The school probably won't do much of anything."
At 8:42 on September 22nd, Clemente updated his Facebook status one last time. It read, "Jumping off the GW Bridge. Sorry." Tyler, Megan, Ryan, they're not alone. There are a staggeringly large amount of people who have killed themselves over being bullied online. June 29, 2005, Jeffrey Johnson commits suicide after being bullied in person and online. October 9, 2006, Rachel Neblick killed herself in her parents' bedroom after she was threatened with violence online. August 23, 2008, Alexa Berman hangs herself 3 days before starting high school after torment from her former friends in person and on instant messaging. July 3, 2008, Jessie Logan hangs herself after her ex-boyfriend sends naked pictures of her to other female students at their high school. September 12, 2009, Hope Whistle hangs herself after topless photos she sent to a crush are circulated through the entire school. January 14, 2010, Phoebe Prince hangs herself after being harassed for the most part in person but also in cyberspace. The torment continued after her death on a Facebook memorial site. April 14, 2010, Ashley Rogers. Although she was clinically depressed, Ashley's parents believe that the taunt she received from text messaging and torment at school fueled her suicidal tendencies. And the list for anti-homosexual bullying is just as large and unsettling. Billy Lucas, 15. Cody J. Barker, 17. Seth Walsh, 13. Asher Brown, 13. Harrison Chase Brown, 15. Raymond Chase, 19. This list is staggering, and it is only getting bigger. It's frightening, heartbreaking, and unsettling the power people have over others online. The feeling of emotional torment young people experience online is a shocking problem. This epidemic is only getting worse, and is only claiming more and more innocent victims. It's hard to imagine how horrible it must be to feel like this. The isolation, the fear, the constant feeling of inadequacy. Over the past few years, we've seen the American people have enough and want to stand up and do something. The one case that has truly sparked the attention of the American people is the death of Tyler Clemente. This case started a firestorm of outrage in the mainstream media.
And it's so tragic. I mean, it really is tragic because his roommate had no business outing him. It was not his roommate's decision, right? Should have been Tyler's. The coverage was that it was an issue of cyberbullying rather than homophobia. And I think that is a big issue when we talk about coverage. and we talk about media reporting, is that we're not looking at the underlying issue. Okay, yeah, so you got technology, you get somebody who can buy a $15 webcam and then post it to YouTube. Like, but why?
I think homophobia is alive and well. Just this morning I was watching an interview with Jamie Rodemeyer. He recently completed suicide, a 14-year-old in Buffalo. And again, he maybe about a year ago came out. He was actually in a public service announcement on the site It Gets Better, but apparently took his life just a few days ago. And in his case, his parents definitely believe that it was related to victimization that he was facing as a result of his sexual orientation.
Studies have been done that show that LGBTQ youth have a higher rate of suicide attempts than those of their heterosexual peers. Roughly between 30 and 40% of LGBTQ youth, depending on age and sex groups, have attempted suicide. A government study found that LGBTQ youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than other young people. The reasoning behind why LGBTQ youth might attempt suicide more than their other peers may be related to something that is known as minority stress.
Well, bullying is a pervasive problem, not just with youth, but as youth are my focus. It's not something that has gone away. I think there's an attitude now that since GLBT folks seem to be more accepted now, that it's less of an issue. And I can tell you as recent as 3 months ago, I had young adults running in here because they were being gay bashed for walking down the street and holding hands.
One of the most frequent ways for boys to bully other boys is to call them gay or fag or queer. And there are some research studies out there that show that when boys are being bullied, they're gay baited, which means that's what's happening to them. Kindergarten, first, second grade, when kids call somebody a name, the most frequent name that they call them is stupid. By the time they're in second grade, they say gay or fag is what they tell them, even though they don't know what it means.
Well, I mean, homophobia is always one of the linchpins of bullying, not only because it's the way that you shut someone up, that's okay, don't be gay, and so the person stops complaining about whatever it is. But it also, and it shames the person. And so it does 2 things. It silences people and it shames them.
If students are, targeting someone, the 2 things you usually hear are either comments that liken them to a woman disparagingly, so that they're like a sissy, or a variety of other terms, or that they're a fag or gay, and that those things obviously to be a fag or to be gay is also to be like feminized or like a woman.
It seems that homophobic epithets are what are thrown the most when it comes to cyberbullying. It starts with, hey faggot, hey queer. I mean, you don't even have to be gay to be or queer in any way to be a victim of homophobic bullying, because you could just be perceived as. You could be a little bit too effeminate or maybe a little too butch, and people get scared of what they can't identify.